Hello, this is Chris Hammond with Christoc.com, and this is our third video in our DNN Task Manager module development series. In this video, we're going to go through and use our DAL, or Data Access Layer, project template to create our DNN Task Manager project in Visual Studio 2012. Now, in order to do that, we're going to use Christoc's module development templates, and I'll show you where you can find those there in Visual Studio 2012. Now, one quick note about the way we're doing module development within Visual Studio 2012. If you're using Windows 8, you do need to start Visual Studio in or as an administrator, run as administrator. And you can do that by right-clicking on the icon and choosing that option from the start screen. That's necessary because of the way we utilize IIS within our DNN development environment. So if you have Visual Studio 2012 open, you can go into the Tools option. And from the tools, you can go into the extensions and updates. Now, if you already have the templates installed, they'll show up here. But if they are not installed, you can go to the online option. And from there, if you search for the word .NET Nuke, you should see the .NET Nuke project templates available. You can go ahead and click on those and click through and have that install there in Visual Studio 2012. Now, if you're using Visual Studio Express, you'll need to go ahead and download those templates from the CodePlex project page. Now, once we have the templates installed, what we can go ahead and do is create a new project. Let's go ahead and talk about some of the settings that we're going to need to configure for that new project. First thing we're going to do is when we go through the templates, we're going to choose the DNN7 C# compiled module template. Now, if you want to use Visual Basic.NET, you can utilize the VB templates that are available in the Visual Studio package, but all of the tutorials here are done in C#. We're going to create a module. We're going to call it DNN Task Manager DAL1. Now, part of this tutorial series, we will also utilize a new feature in DNN7 called DAL2, and later in the series we're going to create a different module utilizing the DAL2 template, which provides a different way to interact with data within DNN. Now, when we create that module, we're going to create it into a very specific directory. Inside of our DNN Dev website, or DNNDev.me, which we configured in previous videos, there is a folder called Desktop Modules. We want to make sure that our module is created within that folder. We're not going to give it a solution name. We're also going to make sure that the Create Directory for Solution option in Visual Studio is not checked. So let's go back over here to Visual Studio and go through that process. So on the left side, I can choose from my templates. If you have the templates installed, you should see a .NET Nuke option, and then you have a C# compiled and a C# DAL2 compiled module option. I'm going to choose the first option, and then I'm going to go ahead and type in our project name. Now, by giving it a name, when Visual Studio creates the project, it will create that project inside of a folder called DNN Task Manager DAL1. That folder will belong or exist in the F websites, DNNDev.me, and then the desktop modules folder. Now, you might have your DNNDev.me install somewhere else on a different path, but it is important that your module gets created into the desktop modules folder. Now, you can see the solution name option there is grayed out. I can't change the solution name. And then the Create Directory for Solution option is not checked. That's important because if you have that checked, what will happen is Visual Studio will actually create two levels of folders, and your module will be created at the wrong level based on the templates that we're utilizing here. So from there, we can go ahead and click on OK, and Visual Studio will go through the process of creating the project based on this template. It might take a moment or two, depending on the speed of your machine. But once the project is created, you'll be provided with a documentation screen, which is what we see here. Now, there's some notes here about how the project templates work, things that we can go through and make changes to. But really, if you're utilizing the templates, if you're utilizing the DNNDev.me development environment that we talk about in this tutorial series, you really don't need to make any changes once you've created the project here in Visual Studio. So what we can actually do is just go ahead and close that documentation page. Now, a quick overview of the project that was created here. On the right side of the screen, we've got our Solution Explorer, and you'll see that there is a .build folder. Now, this particular project template and all of the templates that we're talking about in this tutorial series utilize MS Build scripts to package our modules to make it very easy to create deployable, installable modules for .NET Nuke. So the build script, build folder there is some of the remnants of the NuGet package, which goes out and gets the MS Build community tasks, DLLs, in order to utilize the functionality we need for build scripts. After that, we have our actual project. From there, we have a variety of different files within that project. We're going to take a look at some of these files as we go through the tutorial series, but the important ones for now are down towards the bottom. We have a view.ascx file. If I go ahead and click on that, Visual Studio will load a preview over on the left. You can see that that file is currently empty, except for the declaration line on the first line. There is code behind for that file. We also have a settings file, settings.ascx. Now, this particular file has some information commented out in it, but you can see it's essentially just another blank ASCX file, except for that commented out information. And then we have an edit.ascx file, once again, an empty file here within the project. These are some common types of user controls that a module will have, and that's why they're included within the project templates. Now, in addition to those files, we have other files within the solution, a license file, a CSS file, we have a release notes file, and then we have a couple of files that are named DNN Task Manager DAL1. One is a .dnn extension. That is the manifest file within DNN. It tells DNN how to install a module. We have a base class or module base class and a module settings base. And we'll utilize a variety of these files as we go through this tutorial series. But for now, let's go ahead and build this module so that we can get it installed into our .NET Nuke development environment. Now, the way these project templates work, if you go ahead and you switch into release mode in Visual Studio, and I'll do so at the top of the screen here, and from there, if I go ahead and do a build, what will happen is Visual Studio will go through and build that module. And because I built in release mode, it also created an installable package for that module. Now, with that installable package, we can install the module into our .NET Nuke development environment. Now, I'm going to navigate over here to a browser where I already have my development environment open, and I'm currently logged in as the host account. Now, it's very common that you'll be logged in as the host or super user account when you're doing module development, because you have to be a host or a super user to install extensions within DNN. Now, when we created this environment, we used the blank template, so we just have a home page with no content on it. But we do have underneath the host menu the host extensions page. This is where we're going to navigate to in order to install our module. So from here, we're going to click on the Install Extension Wizard, which will give us a pop-up, which we can then go through and look for our file. Now, in order to find the file that we want, we need to navigate to the DNN dev.me desktop modules folder. From there, we see we have a DNN Task Manager DAL1 folder. And within that folder, we have a variety of files and folders. In particular, we're looking for the install folder. Inside of that install folder, you're going to find two different zip files. One is called install.zip, one is called source.zip. These are the packages that were created when we built our module in release mode. So we can take one of these packages, and in our development environment, it really does not matter which package we use. It's easiest in most cases if you use the install package. So I'm going to go ahead and choose that. Click on Next. We then walk through the package extension installer here within DNN. We get a list of release notes. We get a list of the license. Go ahead and accept the license and click on Next. And we've now installed the DNN Task Manager DAL1 module. Now, if we go ahead and click on return, it'll take a moment for the website to recycle. And what we'll find is we'll be back to the host extensions page. So at this point, we actually have the module installed within our .NET Nuke development environment, and we can now place that module on a page and start to work with that module. At this point, the module doesn't do anything, but it is available to us, and it will make our development process a lot easier. In the next video in the series, we'll go through that process. We're going to create a new page, place the module on that page, and then start building out some of the functionality for our Task Manager module.